Hi, how's it going? I wanted to talk a little bit about hope and the impact it can have on, almost any circumstance that is leaving us feeling sad or in pain or in lack or you name it. Um, Perfect example. I'm going to use myself as an example. The other morning, I came out, and as I opened the blinds, I was so excited about my plant growing a new leaf, and it hadn't completely unfurled yet. But I noticed that it was almost broken off. And I literally cried over this. And don't make fun of me. or make fun of me, whatever. But I mean, to me, plants aren't in the same category as things because they're alive. And I take them personally. When my neighbor, not out of choice, but out of necessity, had to cut down my favorite tree, I cried all day. I was so sad. But in any case, back to this. It broke my heart. It literally broke my heart. I cried. I went outside and I kept thinking, trying to do all my life hacks of how do I get my mind reset? How do I reset my mind? And I did my prayers, my affirmations. I worked on it. I really did. But what I needed to do was kind of cry. And I did. I sat with it and I looked at it realistically. And then I went into a bit of a problem-solving mode. And I'm like, well, it's still attached. So maybe I can do what humans do. When we have a broken limb, it gets casted, it gets put back in place, and who knows, maybe it can heal. And then I started getting hopeful, right? And as I got hopeful and took intentional action, I found one of my twines that I use to basically tie my plants up to like the moss poles. And you got to do it gently. So I was like, okay. I was doing triage here. So I started wrapping it and then I did a little Reiki on it. And I was like, I really am holding hope that this heals. And whether it does or not, it really was what I needed to get out of that mindset because I felt hopeful. I was excited again, right? I was like, that might work. And I hope it does. And in that moment, it lifted my heart. So hope is more than just a pipe dream, right? Because whether the leaf lives or not, it wasn't from lack of trying. And it wasn't from lack of love or putting intention behind it. Now, with hope, I hope it heals, right? But I'm able to let go through trying and hoping. I can release it to God, to the universe, to whatever you believe in, to fate, right? In my, I was able to just kind of say, all right, I did my part. I took action. I'm holding hope. I'm holding space. What happens from here, I leave in Spirit's hands, right? I leave, I'll do my part, but ultimately it will be what it needs to be. And I will learn from that too, because that's what life is. It's a progression of learning. Not everything is devastating learning, right? Not everything is a tragedy. Sometimes it is. In this case, I was like, wow, okay. And I was at peace the rest of the day. I took action. Okay. Not everything requires action, but action of any kind, whether it's action with their thinking, action with behavior, action with intention, or action with actually doing something. Well, behavior, right? It releases that belief that I was hopeless or helpless. Helpless. Yeah, that's the one. Because I think sometimes that's what's the most devastating piece, is when we feel like we have zero ability to impact a situation that leaves us feeling lack or heartache or whatever the case may be, less than. So the perspective was, if I take this action, possibly it can heal. And I did my part towards that hopeful outcome. And that's all we can do, right? So if for whatever reason that doesn't pan out, will I grieve a little? For sure. But it won't be as poignant as it was when I first noticed it. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, what if it doesn't grow? What if? Right? And as humans, we what if ourselves sometimes into inability to move forward in any capacity. So it's that intentional action. Once we're able to clear our mind, that doesn't mean, when I talk about controlling emotions, I'm not saying ignoring or blocking them out or not feeling them. No, it's sitting with, what am I struggling with? And sometimes, what I did was I had to clear my mind of it, which was really hard. But once I was able to do that, I was able to problem solve a little bit. And through the problem solving, I found my hope. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that's helpful. And I'm wishing you all the best. I'll talk again soon. And if you don't mind, hope for my plant. All right. Bye.